Hello and welcome to the Real Estate Money Show. My name is Rick Malero and I've been a passive real estate investor now for over 20 years. Now, with the many years of doing business, I've done many active projects myself. We've funded millions upon millions of dollars in real estate investments, and we also work in partnership with many real estate professionals. Now, I say all that not to brag, but to impress upon you some really important information that we've gathered over the years. And I want to begin by telling you a fact that is incredible and most investors don't know. Did you know that most active investors don't even realize that delays in construction literally represent over 25% off of their profits? So the truth is, time, well, it really is money. Now today, I'm going to be talking about a really important topic because what I want to share with you is that first and foremost, by having the right contractor, but once you have that right contractor, by applying this strategy with leveraging modular construction housing, you will learn how you can save a lot of money, save speed, and create profitability for your business that actually is very productive in a market cycle like the one we're in today. So on this show, I want to be very clear. This is not just about making money. This is about investing strategically with integrity to also make a difference, not just in the money and profits, but in the people that we come in contact with and that we work with. Now, as I said before, I've been doing real estate investments for decades. And the truth is, I currently, as we speak, am working on 12 ground-up construction projects of my own, which means that I have a lot of work cut out for my team, and we have a lot of projects that are going vertical simultaneously. And what I can tell you in this particular market, delays, waiting on materials, and cost overruns can really affect your investments in a big way. And that's one of the negative things about your traditional construction building. Now, we have to really think about this. In today's market, most investors don't realize this, but as of recently, based on the data and statistics, it shows that over 32% of all residential single-family home investments across the nation are done by mom and pop investors like you and like myself. And of course, there's a segment there that includes institutions. But the point is, that almost a third of all the real estate transactions in our nation are currently being transacted through real estate investors, which means that 32% of real estate is currently looking to be more innovative, to be more efficient, so that you can create more profitability for those investments. Now, there's an old saying of Buffett who said, when there's blood on the streets, you buy real estate. So what we're seeing in this economy that is still quite uncertain is we're seeing investors that are taking on the risk of buying these distressed properties, houses that in many cases they bulldoze in order to build a new home, and they're doing that because they want to create a profitability in their ventures. Now, that is a good thing, but there's also a negative consequence, because what we're also finding with statistics is that the everyday end user cannot afford to purchase these properties because of the cost of capital and also because of construction prices. And so they're kind of pigeonholed into either renting or having to join a family member to purchase and qualify for a home. And this is one of the reasons why we're in this weird conundrum where we have a need for housing, but we have people that can't afford the housing. So guys, at the end of the day, this isn't just numbers. The truth is, when our projects get stalled, when our costs go up, it has a ripple effect to the community and to the individuals that need to ultimately occupy these homes, whether they're renting or whether they're buying a property from us. So the reality is, solving these issues like delays in construction, lowering the cost of construction in any way possible will also have a much faster process of getting to the community a better product that is cheaper, quicker, so that the end users can occupy those properties and have their dream home without paying that hefty price. And so it is up to investors and innovators like us to look for solutions that will create a win-win across the board. So now let's talk about the solution, right? What is the strategy that we see in the current market that is changing the game? And the truth is, it's a balanced investment approach. But one of the strategies that my company has started pivoting towards, and we're seeing some incredible results, is by investing rather than doing the traditional construction, we're allocating capital resources to building through modular housing. So why modular, right? I mean, think about that. Well, the truth is there's a very big misconception about modular. A lot of people see modular housing as a mobile home, and the truth is that is not the case. So when I talk about a true modular home, this is actually a beautiful property that literally on an apple-to-apple comparison of traditional construction is considered a single family brand new construction home. So I want to make sure that we set that stage for that first. But why do I love this strategy so much? Well, I want to break it down into three key components. First of all, it is speed of time. What most people don't realize is that when I'm building an affordable house, meaning a house that I'm going to sell sub $400,000, on a traditional construction management timeline, a traditional build will take me anywhere between 4 to 6 months to build and get my certificate of occupancy. But what's crazy is with modular housing, because it is a much more efficient process, that time can literally be saved roughly 30 to 50%, which means that in some cases, that 4-month project can turn into 2 months. And the reason why that's so important is not only am I getting to the market quicker, but also my carrying cost. If I'm financing the deal, I've got to make a mortgage payment. If I have carrying costs with insurance and utilities or anything else at all that is associated with keeping this property, the faster I complete it, the less cost I have each and every month. And so that again brings more savings to my pocket that I can choose later what I'm going to do with. The next piece of savings is the actual cost. Believe it or not, even though we're going to dive into a case study, what I've learned is that there's a lot of savings when you build efficiently. And that gives me more room to be a strategic investor, and it gives me more margin to strategically allocate those profits in the right places depending on the real estate cycle. And lastly, it's a much safer build. Why do I say that? Because remember, the majority of the construction is built in a warehouse, which means that it is not dealing with weather issues. You don't have to worry about a variety of people coming in and vandalizing the property. And so this allows a more streamlined construction process. And for that reason, those manufacturing companies give us years of warranties, which ultimately we can pass on to our end users. So let's take a look at why these savings of both time and money are so effective for real estate investors like us. Well, let's face it, in today's economy and market, we have to have a competitive advantage. Why? Because if you really take a look at big developers who are building hundreds of homes or thousands of homes for that matter, what you're going to notice is that in this economy, they have to invest a lot of their pricing numbers into concessions for the end buyers. So you're right, we're in a buyer's market. And so these developers bump up their numbers and create figures to support the incentives that will motivate buyers to come to them. So if you're competing with a big developer, you're going to have a really hard time making a profit and moving quickly because you're dealing with a group that's already dealt with the issue by creating incentives. So where do these incentives go? Well, let's be honest. One of the first things they do is they apply money towards the closing cost of the end buyer that most traditional investors just don't do or can't afford. The other thing they do is they allocate some of the money towards what they call interest buy-down rates. And so this allows that end user to, with a little bit of cash, to buy down the rate, which will lower their monthly payment. And in many cases, they also offer additional remedies or an additional budget towards repair costs or upgrades, which will motivate the buyer to move forward with their transaction. In fact, what you don't know is that as of the first quarter of 2025, literally 44.4% of all of the houses that sold in the United States of America sold with some type of concession. So what does that mean for you? Is that if you want to stay in business, make a profit, and still move quickly, you have to integrate some of your profit share towards incentivizing buyers to come to your property. And so therein lies the value of leveraging manufacturing, right? Because again, you're speeding up your process, so you're lowering your cost basis. You're also saving money because of the economies of scale and efficiency, which gives you more margin. And from those savings, I highly encourage you, which is what I'm doing, to take some of those profits and reinvest them in the end user to help them to be able to buy your property. That is what makes you a much more strategic investor that is a lot more competitive in a buyer's market. And that is how you make sure that you create a win-win across the board. Okay, so let me give you some perspective. I like to talk about things when it comes to deals from actual projects. So what I want to talk to you about today is a project called Arcadia. This was a property that was brought to us by a real estate professional and one of our partners that we work with consistently. And they brought this piece of real estate, and if I could be honest with you, it was an extremely dated, distressed property that was basically condemned. So the only reason we bought this property is because what we wanted to do is to literally bulldoze it, clear the lot, and then build a spec home in that community. Well, of course, with this market, things have changed. But because we're in a rush and we wanted within the timeline to be able to build a house and avoid impact fees from the county, we had to move quickly. So what I did is I called my builder that we do a lot of business with. He priced out the construction of this particular property, and we are building it traditionally. Now, once the smoke cleared of this chaos, and we wanted to make sure once again that we saved the $12,000 in impact fees, we moved quickly, but I quickly started to reanalyze the numbers. And what I found blew my mind. So let me give you this cost comparison. And again, later on, we'll talk about how you can leverage our contacts to do so. But when I got the numbers to build this particular project, it is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, traditional affordable home. It has a 2-car garage. It has some pretty decent finishes, but our exit price is $325,000 when it's all said and done. Why? Because I wanted to build affordable housing in this market that would still be on the lower side of the cost, but we're giving a brand new product to an end user. Now, my cost to build that particular house was $206,000 with the upgrades that we selected so that our property stood out from your traditional big builders. Now, when I reran the numbers, this is going to blow your mind. The same house, literally apples to apples ratio, the cost to build in modular with a 2-car garage on a slab, exactly the way this other property was built, was only $188,000. So here we have a project that I'm spending $206,000 that I can build through modular for $188,000. And that's not to mention that my build is roughly 4 months for this property, where had I done it with modular, I would have saved an additional 2 months on this project. So this gives you perspective of the efficiency and the cost savings that would have really put me in a position so that I can take from that additional net equity that I've built and I can reallocate it towards paying for buying down somebody's rate so that my property now is a lot more competitive in the marketplace because at our $325,000 price, which is what it's worth, I'm giving the customer additional money without tapping into my profitability. And that, guys, is one of the biggest things that I see in this market. Now, to give you some additional details, which are so interesting in this market, when I say apples to apples comparison, I'm being extremely straightforward. It is literally the same square footage, the same layout, the same shingle, everything is the same. However, because we're working with modular housing, one of the benefits is that it's a streamlined build out. And so I'll give you an example of some of the things that the actual manufacturing group provided to our construction project that we didn't have to pay extra for. And that was beginning with 5-inch crown molding throughout the house. Now, if I wanted to have crown molding throughout my house, which obviously makes the house look aesthetically a lot more attractive and it looks more custom, on a traditional build, I would have to get pricing and pay extra for that upgrade. There were some additional flooring upgrades that just came with the cost savings with the modular, so it makes my property stand out and the flooring look more quality. And there were some additional finishes to some of the additional windows that they were able to integrate and incorporate. So technically, we have, I think, about 5 or 6 additional windows on this modular home that would have cost me extra money if I wanted to go the traditional route. So the point that I'm trying to make in this case study is for a real estate investor who is looking at ways to speed up the process to lower their cost, who is looking to build a better product and at the same time lower the cost so they have margin, this is a very effective strategy that you can leverage to really invest in the marketplace. When I look back at this analysis, what I realized, it wasn't just savings in dollars. It was saving in time, it was saving in efficiency, and it was saving in the ability to offer my end user a much better product at a better price. And so when you think about it, as a real estate investor, whenever you can create additional value, you are positioning yourself to be successful. And that's one of the things that I love about investing with purpose. We're not just looking at making money, we're looking at doing things in a different way so that we have a much more impactful impact on the people around us, both our investors and our end users that we work with on a regular basis. You know, I tell my kids all the time that it's about the little disciplines that build into big things. So when my kids are intentional about being disciplined with their time management, there's a major ripple effect in efficiency and productivity in different areas. And if you think about it, it's the same way with this kind of business. When we think with discipline, we position ourselves to be more strategic, to be more thoughtful, and to be more productive with our time and with our capital. And ultimately, that extra savings because of our productivity, we can choose to give it to somebody else to give them an opportunity, in this case, to own their first home with their family. And so as we wrap this up today, I really want to talk about, once again, the benefits of being a strategic real estate investor. One of the reasons why, again, I absolutely love allocating some of my capital in modular housing is because, first and foremost, it protects my investment and it helps me to mitigate my risk. It lowers my cost cycle when it comes to saving time and saving money, which ultimately protects my return and my investors. And of course, it gives a much better end product with great incentives to the end user, especially in a market like this. And that's one of the reasons why I love this strategy, and I hope you'll consider loving it as well as you put it to practice. Now, if you're an investor and you're looking to explore opportunities like this, whether you're an active investor or maybe you're a real estate professional and you work with investors that would love this, or whether you're a passive investor that just wants to put your money to work and you're saying, Rick, this sounds so awesome, I want to be a part of that. We're building a community of real estate professionals that are not just looking to make money. We're looking to make smart decisions, and we want to infuse purpose to make a difference. So if that's you, I want to encourage you to reach out, and we'll even show you how we put together a custom funding package for those clients that we work with so that they can leverage our capital to execute on this very strategy, which is something that's literally unheard of anywhere else. I want to thank you for watching the Real Estate Money Show. Once again, my name is Rick Malero. Stay tuned for the next one. We look forward to building and cultivating a lasting relationship with you. I hope you've enjoyed the content that we shared with you. And again, if this is something that you feel has been a blessing to you, please do me a favor, share it, like it, subscribe. And if you want to watch some of the other content, don't forget to click on the next video coming up.